Today I'm going to be making some delicious, warm, high-rise dinner rolls, completely from scratch. Now they do take between 2 and 3 hours depending on how quick you are, but if it's Thanksgiving morning or any other holiday or you have the day off, they're well worth the time and effort to have some nice, delicious, homemade, high-rise dinner rolls. Make them with me. First step is take 1/4 cup of water, heat it up to no more than 100 degrees. So try to get as close to 100 as you can without going too far over or under. So 1/4 cup of water, and then dissolve 1 tablespoon of sugar in it. So that means mix it up so you can't see it anymore. Okay, so you can see, you can't really see it sitting on the bottom anymore. Now what you need to do is take 1 package of active dry yeast and sprinkle it on the top. And just let it sit there, and in about 5 minutes that sugar is going to start eating that yeast and you're going to see a foam start to form. While your foam is forming during those 5 minutes, you can prepare the second part of this. You need 1/2 cup of instant mashed potato flakes. Okay? And then you need 1 cup of whole wheat flour. Okay, mix those together. And you also need 2 cups of regular flour. It says to use unbleached. I'm using all-purpose. There's 1. There's 2. So we can mix that in. Now in the largest bowl you have, or well, a bowl about this size, maybe a little larger, add 1 cup of buttermilk heated to 110 degrees. You need 3 tablespoons of softened butter. I used a microwave and I melted mine a little too much. If you just let it set out for ½ hour, an hour, and it's just nice and soft, that's the consistency you're going for. Then you need 2 tablespoons of white sugar. A teaspoon of salt, and 1 large egg. One large egg. Mix this until the mixture is well combined. Okay, I think that's pretty well mixed. Okay, now at this point, don't use a whisk anymore. Definitely switch to a wooden spoon. First, pour in your yeast mixture from earlier. Mix that in. Now what we're going to do is add our flour mixture in, 1/2 cup at a time, until it comes together and forms a sticky ball. Big ball of dough. You'll see it starting to clump together, that's good. It should smell good if you've ever been around baked bread or someone who's cooking bread. It smells really good, that yeast. Okay, it's starting to come together. We can move on to kneading it. Alright, now find a surface you want to knead on, and definitely flour it down a little bit. Doesn't have to be too much. Then get this off of your wooden spoon. And we're going to knead it for 3 minutes or until it's smooth and elastic. Now what I recommend is definitely putting some vegetable shortening on your hands. You don't have to do too much, but you want a good amount, that way the dough doesn't stick to you. Okay, I'd grab your dough, get your flour spread out. Definitely get it all out. Now, if you've ever seen any of my other bread videos, kneading's pretty simple. It's pretty consistent with most recipes. First things first, you just want to kind of push it, be gentle. Don't get too rough yet, because you kind of want it all to clump together. A huge part of what makes it clump together too is kind of the humidity in the area and how dry it is. So sometimes, if it's a little dry to begin with, you can add a little bit of water, but you got to be careful with it. It gets touchy. This dough is pretty good. As I knead it, it will reveal the more sticky areas, which will pick up some of the flour on the surface. Okay, you'll start to see it all coming together. Just kneading is kind of a push and a pull process. There's some really good techniques to it. I'm still kind of a beginner with it, but you get used to it. Just kind of push it and pull it back, push it forward, pull it back. Okay, it's been about 3 minutes. As you can see, it's starting to come together. It's starting to have that good surface tension, that elasticity to it. Not that sticky anymore. Smells really good. You can plop it down. It's not sticking to anything, which is good. It's good exercise, really. Alright, good test. It's to kind of do like a triangle, I've always been told. And if it doesn't come back down too much, your dough's at the right consistency. I mean, it's going to come down a little bit, but it's still keeping its form. So that's a really good sign. So come over to your oven, set it to bake, set it to like 300, 350, and just let it heat up for like a minute or two, and then we're going to turn it off. That way it's going to be pretty warm in here, but not too hot. A perfect environment for some dough to rise. I'm going to use the same bowl I mixed it in to let it rise. So I've washed it out a good amount. And some good advice I have, because eventually you need to cover it while it rises with a towel. If your hands get really wet, dry them off in this towel. Get the towel pretty damp. I mean, not like dripping or anything, but use the most damp towel you have that's not soaked or a wet rag or anything. Take your cleaned out bowl, have your wet towel near it, damp towel, sorry, not wet. And then take about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of vegetable oil. Put it in there. This is going to help oil your dough as it rises. Grab your lump of dough, put it in here, turn it around. Okay. Get your damp towel. At this point, turn off your oven. Mine's been on for like a minute or two. It should be pretty warm. Cover this with your damp towel. Now you gotta be quick about this. You don't want to keep your door open too long or you're gonna let your heat out, so be quick about it. Okay, the oven's warm. Get your pan in there, or your bowl, make sure it's covered with your towel. Shut it, and just leave it alone for an hour. You can work on another recipe or relax, because it's gonna rise in that hour. Okay, the dough has been rising in a warm oven with a damp towel on top for an hour. We can pull it out and see how it's risen. It should be a lot bigger. Yep, you see that it's way bigger. So let's punch this down, divide it up into 9 little rolls, and bake them. You need an 8x8 baking dish. In my case, I'm using a glass Pyrex container. Grease it down a little bit. Then what you got to do is you punch down your dough. That oil helps it not stick to the container it was in. And then we need to divide it into 9 balls, equally sized roughly. So just kind of... Okay, it's okay if you were on the tiny side. So brush them with 2 tablespoons. Okay, now we need to do the same thing we did before, only this time instead of a damp towel we're going to use plastic wrap. So turn on your oven to like 300 or 400 for a couple minutes, turn it off, and then cover this with plastic wrap and get it in while it's still warm. Okay, so I've got the 9 rolls divided up pretty equally. Now get some plastic wrap. Cover them as best you can. We're going to let these rise again and they'll double up while that's happening. Put my oven at 400 for like a minute or 2, then turned it off so it'll be warm in here. I got these covered in plastic wrap. Get it in really quick. Shut it as quick as possible. You don't want that heat escaping. So now I'm going to let it rise in this warm oven for 35 to 40 minutes. Alright, it's been about 35 minutes or so. The rolls have risen once again after being formed into rolls. Yeah, and as you can see they look good. So now we need to preheat the oven to 400 degrees and then actually bake them now. And now that the oven's preheated to 400 degrees, you can take your plastic wrap off. Get it in your oven. And then we're going to bake until golden brown, 25 to 30 minutes. I might check on mine right around 20 or so. Okay, it's been 20 minutes on my rolls. They look nice and brown. I think it's ready to get them out. Yep, as you can see, they're nice and brown. A little dark. Definitely check on them even before 20. My oven runs a little hot as well. So, at this point it said you can also brush them with melted butter, which I recommend. I think that's a good idea. It gives them that shiny, you know, golden texture and flavor on the top. So definitely brush some butter on them, let them cool down, and serve them up. Let's try some. Alright, now we come to the end and the best part of making a recipe, trying it. So I got a roll. It's nice and buttered on the top. Smells amazing. Let's see how it tastes. Good. It's really good. Got that nice warm bread taste. It's fresh. Got really good texture. Can't emphasize how great homemade bread of any kind is. If you've never made it, please try it. So much better than the stuff you just buy at the store. It's fresh, it's warm, right out of the oven. It's amazing. So if you want some high-rise rolls, look no further.